Welcome to my channel. My name is Ria and today we're going to talk about the full moon in the sign of Taurus. Full moons are end points, culmination points, completion points, points where things reach their maximum points of emotional release. On a full moon, the moon, which represents our emotions, opposes the sun, our soul, right? So that's why it is considered an emotionally charged point. It is a point where we do release a lot of emotions. Now, this full moon is in the sign of Taurus at 24 degrees. Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign. It represents stability. It represents things that move slowly. It's an earth sign. It represents the earth, the ground. It represents self-worth, values, skills, resources, that sort of stuff. So generally speaking, on a collective level, Taurian themes can be highlighted. This can be about stability. This can be about resources. This can be about self-worth as well. It can be about values as well, generally speaking. More important is where 24 degrees of Taurus will fall for your personal chart. So if you know your personal charts, look for 24 degrees of Taurus, which house that lies in, and that's the area of your life that will be impacted by this moon. Now, this moon is an important one. It is sitting next to Uranus, right? You can see this. Uranus is retrograde at 25 degrees and the moon is at 24 degrees. Uranus as an energy is unpredictable. It's unexpected. It can come out of nowhere. It's a lot of energy at once and then nothing. It's like that, right? It can be overwhelming. It can shake things up. It's a planet that's about freedom. It's about rebellion. It's about equality, it's about humanity, it's about all these things. So with the moon there, right, this can feel a little unpredictable, it can feel a little uncertain. Uranian themes associated with rebellion, themes associated with freedom, themes associated with being your authentic self, right? Technology, futuristic things, equality. These are the big themes that can be highlighted with Uranus there. But what we need to focus on is the way Uranus works, because it's disruptive, right? What we call disruptive, that's Uranus. Uranus is disruptive. So there can be something disruptive about this full moon. So just keep that in mind, and that's an important thing to consider. That being said, Uranus is in an earth sign. It is in Taurus, and in Taurus it does have to deal with the stability, the grounded nature of Taurus. So although it is unpredictable, it is disruptive, it is maybe a little more grounded than it would be, say, in another sign. Let's just put it that way. So to sum it up, so far, this is a full moon in Taurus, a lot about our self-worth, values, skills, resources, earth, the earth in general. That's highlighted. And with Uranus there's something disruptive about this moon. There's something that can feel a little overwhelming. There's something that is asking us to be more authentic, be more original, that sort of thing. Now, that being said, I do want to bring back focus to Venus because, like I had mentioned, Taurus is a Venus-ruled energy, right? And Venus here is sitting in Capricorn, where it does not really like to be, because Capricorn is a Saturn-ruled energy, right? It's about Saturn, discipline, dedication, all those things, and Venus is there. And Venus in Capricorn is building up. It's square to the nodes, right? It's about to square those nodes. And Venus as a planet, yes, it does represent a lot of the Taurian things, such as our self-worth, values, skills, luxury, how we feel about ourselves, resources, that sort of thing. It also represents our possessions. But on another level, Venus also rules the sign of Libra, so it does represent relationships in a big way. So with the square to the nodes, this is a karmic point when it comes to relationships, when it comes to self-worth, when it comes to finances and possessions. So there can be a karmic shift, a karmic change with this full moon, because Uranus is there with the moon, and then Venus is squaring the nodes, which rules the sign of Taurus, where we do have this moon. Right, so there can be this shift happening, and there are other reasons for the shift as well, which we will get into as the video progresses, because we are at a time where bigger energies are changing for us. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but just keep in mind something karmic related to Venus can happen as it is squaring the nodes. And if you don't know what the nodes are, let me just get into those real quick for a moment. This is the North Node. These are the nodes of the moon, also known as Rahu. And this is the South Node, also known as Ketu, right? And these are karmic points. These are highly karmic points. These are also known as destiny points in a chart. So if you want to know the most karmically charged points in your personal charts, look for Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn. These three will be where a lot of the karmic stuff is going to happen for you. So generally speaking, when a planet starts to aspect the nodes like this, there is something karmic coming about related to that planet. And in this case, it's Venus. All the things that I mentioned before. The next thing I want to talk about related to this moon is the fact that we do have this moon in a sextile with Neptune. Right, Neptune is right here, 60-degree angle. The moon is building up to it, but it is a sextile. So Neptune is a very spiritual planet. It's the planet of the higher realms. It's the planet of things like creative writing, music. It's highly spiritual. At the same time, it is confusing. It is something that's very elusive, right? We feel like we've understood Neptune, but we've not really understood it. It's got this mystical, mysterious quality to it. So that's Neptune. And it is aspecting this moon. So there is an element of feeling guided. There is an element of intuition kicking in some way. There is an element of using our gut feel to navigate the energies at this point. The next thing I also want to mention is that although there is a 5-degree difference, 5-degree orb, the moon is building up its trine, 120-degree angle to Pluto. Pluto rules the sign of Scorpio, where we have the sun right now, 24 degrees of Scorpio, and it is making a positive aspect with the moon and the sun. Both the moon and the sun will build up. It's building up the energy, the trine to Pluto. Pluto brings changes, it brings transformation, it brings things to the surface. When Pluto aspects something, it does not leave it the same, right? It changes it permanently. That's the difference between the planets such as Mercury, Mars, Venus, and planets such as Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. When Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto aspect any of the planets in our chart, or they transit certain planets in our chart, the change is long term, the change is more permanent. So in this case, Pluto is aspecting this moon as well. The moon will build up to its aspect to Pluto, and so will the sun, and Pluto does rule the sign Scorpio, where this axis of Taurus Scorpio is being highlighted by this full moon. And what this tells me is that there can be a lot of transformation happening on this moon, right? A lot of changes. Things may not stay the same after this moon. And the next thing I'd like to focus on is the fact that this moon is aspected by all three outer planets, right? Uranus is sitting right next to it, Neptune is sextiling it, and we have Pluto making a trine to it, 120-degree angle. It's being aspected by all three outer planets. And what I just said was that when these three aspect a planet, the change, the transformation is of a more long-term nature, of a more permanent nature, as compared to, say, maybe Mars, Venus, etc. So we have this transformative, disruptive, guided, intuitive energy on this moon that can bring a long-term change, almost a permanent change, but I don't want to say that. Let's just say a long-term change. So that's something I wanted to talk about as well. The next thing I want to mention about this moon is the fact that Saturn here is now direct. Saturn went direct, I believe, a day or so before this full moon, and Saturn here is the ruler of this reality, right? Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. It is to do with hard work, discipline, dedication, karmic things associated with Saturn, as I had mentioned. It is to do with our reality. So now it's direct, right? So in a lot of way, we'll see forward movement kick up again, because Saturn is one of those very important planets when it comes to our day-to-day, when it comes to how things are progressing for us. So Saturn is now direct. For the past few months, it was retrograde. On this moon now, we have Pluto direct, Saturn direct, but we still have Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter retrograde. So there is a slow energy, yeah, that's going on, but with Saturn moving direct, things can feel like things are moving a bit. And speaking of Pluto now, you can see Pluto is at 29:55 on this moon. In a few days' time, I believe November 19th, 20th, around then, this can vary depending on where you are in the world, it will enter Aquarius for good. And what I mean by this is that Pluto has been going back and forth into Aquarius and Capricorn for the past year and a half almost, right? This is extremely significant because Pluto is a very slow moving planet. It takes many years to go around the zodiac, and it has been in Capricorn since 2008. March 2023, it entered Aquarius for a brief while and moved back. Then Jan 2024, it re-entered Aquarius again. September of this year, it moved back into Capricorn, and now finally, in a few days' time, it will enter Aquarius and not go back into Capricorn again. It will stay in Aquarius for the next almost 20 years. So a long time. So Pluto is slow, and what this means for us is we are completing a 16-year cycle with this full moon, you can say. Right, 2008 to 2024, we are completing that. And March 2023, we got glimpses of the new thing coming into our life. But that new thing is there, but it's not fully in its bloom, you can say. It's not fully there. It's there, but the past is hanging on as well, because Pluto did go back into Capricorn and did all that, right? But now with Pluto finally moving into Aquarius, we've closed out the 16-year chapter for good, especially since July of this year with the full moons in Capricorn, right? If you recall, there were 2 full moons in Capricorn this year, one at the beginning of the sign and one at the end of the sign, and then Pluto went back into Capricorn in September, and now it's finally going to leave Capricorn November 19th, 20th. And the moons are over as well. So we've successfully completed that 16-year chapter, and the new chapter starts for us. So this is a big shift, and this is one of the big shifts that I was talking about in the first half of the video. So Pluto is going to finally enter Aquarius, and here what we started last March will be in a more manifested energy, more real energy, you can say. So that's that. Speaking of the outer planets, right? Pluto is changing signs, as I just mentioned. If you see, Neptune is at the end degrees of Pisces, and so is Uranus. By next year, these two will also change signs, right? So next year, we'll see the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in different signs. And that's a big theme shift coming up for us. And what that means is themes in our lives are going to shift in a big way next year, right? Next year into the year after that, 2025 into 2026 is going to be a big shift. And 2026, we'll also have Saturn and Neptune meet up, right? We'll have Saturn and Neptune meet up, and they will meet at 0 degrees of Aries, the beginning point of the zodiac. So starting next year, actually starting November of this year, all the way to 2026, big theme changes, big shifts coming up. and I just wanted to touch upon that as well. So now that we've spoken about Saturn direct, we've spoken about Pluto changing signs, we've spoken about the aspects that are going on, let's just talk about a few more things before we close it out for today. The next thing I want to mention is the fact that Mercury will retrograde November 25th onwards. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So when Mercury goes retrograde, things seem a little slow when it comes to communication. It's not generally the best time to sign brand new contracts. That being said, it is a great time to go back to something Mercury related that you already started. Go back and revise that, right? So Mercury goes retrograde 25th November. So it is a personal planet, so things may start to feel a little slow. Things may feel like communication is a bit delayed. That sort of thing might happen. So I just wanted to mention it because between this moon and the next, Mercury will retrograde. Speaking of retrogrades, we will also have Mars here, retrograde at the end of the year. If you recall last video, I had said Mars is building up its opposition to Pluto. Now it's done with that opposition, right? It's moved past that opposition point. Now it's in the sign of Leo. However, Mars will retrograde, right? It will retrograde in the sign of Leo and Cancer. It will go retrograde on December 6th. So not too far from now, it will go retrograde. And Mars again is a personal planet. So for a good 10 days in December 6th to I believe December 15th or 16th, both Mercury and Mars will be retrograde. So things may feel slow. Again, with Mars retrograde, Mars is to do with taking action. It's about getting things done. It's about starting new things. It's about initiations. So with Mars retrograde, it's a good time to go back to a project that you might have started previously and work on that rather than starting something brand new, right? During that time, Mars will be retrograde till Feb of 2025. And then we'll have a short gap, and then we will have Venus retrograde from 2nd March, right? So come 25th November, we have Mercury retrograde, then Mars goes retrograde 6th December. It goes direct Feb 23rd, I believe, and then we have Venus go retrograde a few days after on March 2nd. And Venus will go direct, I believe, 12th April 2025. And why I'm saying all this is because all these are personal planets, and when they start to retrograde, we feel a slowdown. We feel like it's not forward movement, but retrogrades mean review. Retrograde means the past coming back up. So it's a time where the universe is asking us to work on something that we've already started before, to fine tune it, to make it better, so that after all these retrogrades in the month of April, whatever hard work we've done, whatever review we've done, however we have fine tuned our life, our projects, etc., that's when, with the direct movement of all the planets, things will start to move forward. And like I said, a lot of change is building up without a planet's changing signs. So keep that in mind as you move forward as well. We'll see a big shift in energy November 20th onwards, because 1st September to now could have felt like a step back in the past in some ways, maybe mentally, maybe internally, maybe in your life, maybe in some way. But November 20th onwards, it's that 16-year cycle is over, right? It's over. So that's that, and I think I'll leave it at that for this video. So to sum it up, this is a disruptive moon. It is a moon that can bring transformation. Following intuition, following our gut is important, and since all outer planets, the three of them, are aspecting this moon in some way or the other, the change, the transformation that starts is more of a long-term nature. Saturn is now direct, forward movement. Pluto will change signs, so a major closeout is happening with this moon. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was useful, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.